Ideas, ideas. Come on, give me some inspiration. Aha! I've got it. Yes. It's a masterpiece. All jokes aside, sometimes it's difficult to come up with a really good idea. For me, I'm fairly fortunate. I've always been a creative person. Anybody who has known me since I was a child knows that I had a pretty wild imagination. So for me, coming up with stories isn't such a big deal. In fact, I've got a whole bunch of short stories loaded, but I just have to get this first novel out before I even think about it. So just a couple of tips on ways to come up with ideas if you're really struggling. For me, I find inspiration all around me. People that I meet, certain characters, certain personality traits make it into my stories. Things that I witness during my day, whether it be at my job or just walking down the street in the shopping centre. Little incidents trigger ideas in my head. The most valuable tool that I found is actually my mobile phone. And as soon as I get an idea, I've got to get that down straight away. So I do a little voice recording and just put my idea down in a little voice note. And I'll label it something like short story idea. And I'll just briefly outline my idea. And then I can just build on that afterwards. Sometimes I'll be in the shower in the morning and I'll remember something that I dreamt about, or something just comes to me, and same thing. I find myself rushing out of the shower, grabbing my phone and writing it down. Sometimes I'll grab a piece of paper and write down. I've got a whole stack of papers that I've written, making notes for my novel. And the other thing I'd suggest is be flexible with your ideas. You know, not all great stories start with a really, really great idea. I find you can build on it and it becomes something else. It becomes a different beast. It's certainly been the case with my novel. The basic premise of my story is still there, but it's become something epic. And I had to wait until the age I am to do my story, because if I did it in my early 20s, I wouldn't have had the maturity. And I wouldn't have had the thought processes that come, I guess, with age and experience, that the story has had elements added into it that makes it so much bigger than it would have been. So I find that helpful. Just notes all the time. And sometimes if I hit a block, in my novel, there were 3 or 4 times when I've hit a wall, you know, and I just couldn't get any ideas onto the page. So I thought, don't fight it. Don't sit there in front of a screen and try to come up with something. Just walk away. Leave it breathe for a bit. Something will come to you. I remember there was a space of about 3 months when I didn't write a word. I just let it go. And then I went back and I read what I had written already, right from the beginning, all the way through. I can't tell you how many times I've written this book. It must be at least 5 or 6 times I've gone back over and rewritten, taken passages and moved them. I haven't worked, as some authors do, with a clear plan of beginning, second act, third act, final act. I haven't worked that way. I find that too limiting for my mind. But by all means, if it works for you, make a plan. Draw up a character sheet, who's going to be the main antagonist of the story, who's going to be the protagonist, what events are going to get you from point A to point B to point C. It may work for you. It didn't work for me. I found that I had to allow myself to be open to any creative ideas that came to me. So work with what's best for you. But make those notes. I can't stress that enough. For me, it's been just such a massive help in formatting my story. Look around you. Take everything in. Don't be afraid to put ideas down. Don't be afraid to think that your ideas are too extreme. At certain points in my novel, I thought I'd crossed the line as far as pushing my characters too far, pushing certain elements of violence too far, but it turns out I haven't. When I handed my story off to some beta readers, they didn't have an issue with it. They enjoyed it. So I was overthinking what I was putting onto the paper. In other words, I was not servicing the story properly. I should have just put down what I felt with my heart. Would I want to read it? As an author, you have to want to read your own story, and if it doesn't appeal to you, if you haven't got the passion like I do, like I've said before, I wouldn't be sitting here. I wouldn't have my story in the hands of the editors. These things cost real world money, okay? To get your story edited, to get any graphic work done, formatting, all those things cost real world money. So if you're not sure, you have to be sure. Enjoy the story. Enjoy the process. For me, I've really enjoyed it, and I'm continuing to enjoy it. So I've expanded my world to be something so much bigger than what it was. The fact that I've created a YouTube channel is huge for me. I never believed that I would do this, so there we are. So yeah, be open to ideas, make those notes, look around you, take inspiration from everywhere. Work to your strengths. If you love romance, do a romance story. Don't try and force yourself to do a thriller or a comedy. Just work to your strengths. Those other little elements will probably find their way into your story, but work to what you know. If you enjoy romance stories, write a romance stories. If it happens to be some lovesick vampire-loving teenage girl who's having an affair with a werewolf, then so be it. Write it, but enjoy it. For me, I enjoy horror. My biggest inspirations are Edgar Allan Poe, Clive Barker, but that's not necessarily the story I ended up with. I wanted so badly to write a horror story. And yes, there are certainly elements of horror and violence in my story, but it's not what it's ended up being. It's more of an epic adventure story. So there's traces of comedy in it. I enjoy comedy. I enjoy laughing and smiling, and so that's naturally found its way in. Work to your strengths, and I think you'll find that the process will be a bit easier for you. I've probably yabbered on too long. Once again, I look forward to seeing you guys again. Drop a comment in the comment section below. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and the bell notification button. And I look forward to seeing you all soon. Until next time, bye.